Hello, 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 welcome back to Hunter Tuned. In today's episode, we are going to be dyno tuning this Honda Del Sol with a D16 Z6. It is a all-stock single cam, and it's got an eBay turbo kit on it. Guy dropped it off a couple days ago, and I haven't really been able to get at it because, well, if you guys live in the US, you know it's been kind of cold pretty much everywhere in the US. We've been dealing with like blizzards and a whole bunch of stuff. So we got a lot of snow and a lot of really cold weather. But today it's like a balmy 7 degrees. So I think we can just crack the door in order to get this thing tuned up. The guy dropped it off, and he got a base map from Farable. And I've always really liked Farable. They've been around for a really long time, and their base maps are usually pretty good. So he did get a base map from them and got it up and running, but he says he thinks it's a little rich and he wants to get it kind of going through and just make sure the tune is good and make some tweaks to it if we need to. So like I said, it's an eBay kit with a log manifold, and it looks like it has a typical eBay 50 trim turbo on it. But what's interesting about this turbo is usually these turbos, from my knowledge, are usually always externally wastegated, but this one has a block off on the manifold where the wastegate would normally go, and it has this wastegate to V-band adapter on the turbo. And you can see back here it's got the little lever arm which will actuate. There's a little valve inside of here which will bypass exhaust gas on the turbo and slow the spool, or control the boost that way. So it has a vacuum line coming from the wastegate down here, and then that little rod will actuate at a certain pressure, and then it has this adjustment nut down here. I don't know if you can even see that, but there is some adjustment to these wastegates. So he's got a vacuum line coming off of that, and it's going to, looks like a Turbo Smart style boost controller, and then back over to the turbo for reference. The turbo feels nice and tight. The only thing that concerns me a lot of times, the feed line and feed plate that come with these eBay turbos are actually set up for a ball bearing. So the plate is like a restrictor style plate, and usually they under oil these turbos. If you want one of these really cheap eBay turbos to last, in my opinion, I would buy a 3AN, number 3AN feed line, and just run it right into the turbo and bypass that plate altogether. Some guys experiment drilling them out and stuff like that, but I think overall, general rule of thumb is, at least for the turbos that I sell and the few eBay turbos that I've done, I did one on a Turbo Miata one time with a really cheap turbo, and I fed it with a 3AN line going right into the turbo, which is typical for journal bearing units. Usually a journal bearing, we recommend 3AN, and then ball bearing, you want the 4AN with the restrictor. And then always make sure the return line is good and gravity feeding into the pan, which we can double check that on this thing. Which the return line looks good. Doesn't look kinked or anything. And did double check the piping and stuff like that. That all seems pretty solid. He's even got a little bracket on here, but this, I would probably want to put like some sort of, you could just cut like a piece of vacuum hose or something to put over the top of this bracket, because eventually with vibration and stuff, this metal is actually going to cut into this intercooler piping here, and it will cause a boost leak right there. So that's one thing that to look for. But the couplers and everything look nice and tight. And like on a lot of these turbo Hondas, I try to always look for rub points on the piping, because on a few of my builds that I've done in the past, I've had the pipes actually rub through, and then you'll get a boost leak, and that's never fun. And then the piping comes up through here and gets adapted with one of these Spectre couplers, which these couplers are okay for like 10 pounds of boost or so. These are ones you get like at AutoZone. But it looks like he adapted up to this style pipe, which is probably like a 2.5 or something. Maybe this is 2-inch, I don't know. But he adapted to a VS Racing 50 millimeter blow-off valve, so that should be sounding pretty sweet. It does have a PLM 4-bar map sensor, which I don't know if we'll be utilizing because it is a stock engine. We'll probably cut it off around 10 pounds of boost or something like that. We'll see what kind of power it's making. And then it does have some 550 cc injectors in it. I'm not exactly sure what brand they are, but yeah, we're gonna fire it up and show you guys how it's running currently, and then I'm gonna put a base map in it and see if mine runs any better. I have a suspicion if the tune is set up for 550s, he said it's running really rich, so maybe these injectors are bigger than 550s. Who knows? So, but looking at the outside of the car, not too bad. Pretty clean little deli here. It's got a nice little Momo steering wheel in it and everything. But we're gonna fire it up and see how this thing runs currently, and then see if we can get it to improve from here. This is a little bit suspicious. This is like... Laser. Sounds like I'm in an arcade. We got the old cop scanner. But yeah, this thing is a little bit concerning just because it says air-fuel ratio on the bottom, and it's like an AEM knockoff wideband. So I don't know if I'm going to trust this thing or not. But otherwise, it's got mechanical boost and oil pressure gauges. But yeah, let's see how she runs. So it runs. It's a little stumbly. And the wideband's just showing lines. So I don't know if it's too lean or too rich. Yeah, you can see, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but the motor is really shaky. I don't know if it'll smoothen out at all. Sounds like it might smoothen out a little bit, but yeah, wideband's just reading lines. Which usually means lean, but this wideband seems like it's X-band, K-band, K-A-band, laser. It goes all the way rich, and then lines. So maybe lines on this one means all the way rich. I usually don't ever trust these cheap widebands, so we might end up, I'll see if I got an AEM here that we can swap in and see if it's the gauge or if it's the sensor or both. I don't even know if the wiring is the same on the back, but I'll let you know in a minute. So another thing that I was thinking about is, I don't know if Faribault uses Chrome when they build the base maps, but I know Chrome doesn't allow for a 4-bar, or it doesn't have like the drop down preset for a 4-bar map sensor, and I've personally never been able to get a 4-bar to work properly with Chrome. There's ways around it and you can make it work, yes, but typically when I tune on a chip DCU with a 4-bar, I use HTS or Neptune, and I do have a file here for a set of 1000 cc injectors and a 4-bar that I'm going to load onto the chip right now, and we're going to plug into it, because maybe the map sensor is just wrong. Maybe we could just try a map sensor and see if the base map was set up for that. But we're just gonna go with one of mine that's already kind of set up a little bit already, and we'll see how it runs with this. All right, guys. So I just got the chip put in. I burned I have a D16 1000 cc injector 4-bar map. Let's see how this runs the car. That's weird too, like sometimes I'll take the chip in and out. Oh my gosh, this thing's gotta be quiet over here. Ah! Sometimes on the first key cycle, when I swap the chip, the engine light will stay solid, and then I'll key flip it, and the light will come on and then off like it's supposed to. Seems a little bit smoother on this file. I don't know what this is going to do, if it's going to go rich or lean or what. See, it goes all the way rich and then it goes to the lines, which is usually backwards. But it does seem like it's running a little bit smoother. Motor's still got a little bit of shake to it, not too bad. Wideband's still not reading. Weird. So the base map that I had in it, I just checked the parameters and stuff on it, and it actually had overall fuel at 20%. So I set that to 0, and wouldn't you know, we got the wideband reading. So that's a start. Assuming that this wideband is telling us the truth. But it does sound smoother, like it's not as rich. But we might have to play with it and pull some more fuel out of it, get us a little bit closer before we strap down and start driving this thing. But yeah, in HTS, you have your injector calibration, and then you have your overall fuel right here. This was at 0, and this was actually at 550, so this was a 550cc tune. So I raised the injector size, which should pull fuel out, and I set this to 0, which should pull fuel out. So we're gonna set this at like 950 for the injector size, which will pull even more fuel out. And I usually never do the cranking and post start tip in, all that kind of stuff. I leave it at 0. So we'll try this out. Like I said, I don't even know what these injectors are, but we'll play around with it. Seems like it's hitting on all 4, so that's good. Like I said, they might be thousands. Yeah, we're right at like an 11 air fuel, so pulling just a little bit more fuel might be all it needs. And then once we're in the ballpark, we can kind of do some fine tuning. All right, guys, so I got the idle and everything good. And then when I started driving the car, I got it strapped down, I started driving it. It was super lean when I was getting into the throttle. So I went through and I've added a lot of fuel, like coming into boost and stuff like that. So now, hopefully it's a lot closer and we can actually get a pull out of it. And we can see where the boost is and everything like that. So this will be the first dyno run. Let's kind of see where everything's at. We got to get the dyno synced up here with the RPM, and then we'll do a pull. But it is sounding a lot better already, so that's exciting. boys and girls, what was that? It was boost cut. So we're probably gonna ditch that boost controller that he's got on there, see if we can get the boost to level out, because yeah, she was on a mission. You could see when the boost started coming in, it just never leveled off. So that made 171 horsepower. Let's see if we can get that to level off. All I'm gonna do is just disconnect the vacuum lines, and I'm gonna get one of those plastic connectors, and I'm just gonna connect the two hoses together, bypassing the boost controller. But hopefully this internal wastegate ends up working. All right guys, so I just took the reference here off of the turbo and ran it right down to the wastegate. Now nothing is tied into the boost controller here. So let's give it another go. If I didn't have boost cut on that sumbitch, it probably would have kicked a rod. Well, the wastegate is wastegating. We have about 7 pounds of boost and holding, so that's a good start. And let's see what we made. 200, whew, a little spicy. 225. And the pull before that was 238. But we do have a little lull in the mid-range and maybe a little bit of boost creep up top that we're gonna try to have to work out of this thing. But damn, that's really good. The wideband did cut out on me after that pull, so I'm going to double check and probably install a different wideband just so I know for sure our air fuel is safe, because this could be kind of lean and that's why it's making good power. But the gauge inside the car said 10.6. I don't know. And it pulled clean, you know, so I think if it was lean it would have been, you know, breaking up or something. But it seemed pretty clean through the pull, and it made like 8 pounds of boost on the gauge that's in the car. So that's really good. Healthy little Z6, that's for sure. But let's double check our air fuel quick, and then we'll do another one. All right guys, so I just got, I pulled the wideband out of my S2000, and I got these little alligator clips on the battery for a temporary power source. And I got his wideband just kind of sitting up here. I pulled the sensor out of Black Betty Turbo Mustang. And yeah, we got a conglomerate of air fuels going on right now, but at least I'll have a source that I trust a little bit better. I got it hanging on the mirror right now. It's a little rich, but every time I lean it out any more than this, it starts to stumble around, so might have to keep it rich. But I'm curious how the air fuels are driving around. This gauge was telling me it was like 13 something, so not too far off. Okay. So air fuel was really good. 11.5, just like the other gauge. I just wanted to make sure. But it was a little rich up top. I don't know if it's because it was boost creeping or what it was doing, but let's and another thing too is I'm only doing 3rd gear pulls on the dyno with this short transmission, because it's a stock engine making almost 240 horsepower. I don't really want to load it that hard, and I don't want to be doing really long like highway pulls with a stock connecting rod. Just stresses stuff pretty hard the more you load them, you know. So we might have to clean up the idle and cruising a little bit more, just because it is a little rich. But let's get a glimpse. Yeah, she's pretty rich cruising. It runs a lot smoother though than it did. And that's stuff we can still iron out. Let's record a pull here on the dyno. Logging. Yeah, so in VTEC it was rich. So we'll probably have to just pull a little bit more fuel out of VTEC. And then I'm gonna pull a little bit of fuel at idle and cruising. And we'll see how the next revision is after we do that. We'll see what kind of power that made. All right guys, so that last pull that we just did, that you guys watched the wideband on, where it went really low 10s, and I think it might even went 9 air fuel way up top. It was 235 horsepower still, so it makes me think that this thing might be boost creeping up into some values that have more fuel in them on the tune. But we're gonna do one more. I just adjusted the fueling in VTEC. We'll see what it does. It's kind of a lot of power for this little stock motor, but it seems to really like it. So let's just let her eat, right? Little eBay kit that could. That time was so much better. Cruising right on the money, 14.0, cruising around. Idle is still a little rich. I'll see if I can lean it out just a smidge more now that I have a reliable wideband on here. But let's see if that fuel change in VTEC made any difference. Oh, fuck yeah, it did. 265 horsepower. 265? What the fuck? Oh shit, I better pull some timing out of this thing or something. What? 265? It was still 10.8 air fuel up top. Yeah, we might have to turn her down, bud. It sounded so good though. I don't know if I trust that boost gauge that's in there. It might be boost creeping up top, like I was saying. But the power curve looks a lot smoother now. I'm gonna show you guys that here in a second. The problem is I can't really turn it down because I have the boost cut on the map sensor at 15 pounds. So it's gotta be making less than 15, but I can't really turn it down because there's no boost controller. It's just reference right to the wastegate. There's an adjustment on there, but like I said, I don't know how these internal wastegates are gonna work on this eBay turbo. I don't know, guys. 260 freaking horsepower on a stock D16. That's spicy. Yeah, habanero over here. Habanero. All right, guys. So car's running really good. Cruising's smooth. Air fuel's right on the money. Wide open's great. It gets a little richer up top, probably when it creeps a little bit, and I'm okay with that. I think I'm gonna leave it there. But this is the difference in power on that fuel change. So the pink line is the new one, and the green is the old, and you can see a pretty decent split just on that fuel change. And I revved it a little bit higher, where I think it's starting to maybe boost creep a little bit. But the boost cut's at 15 pounds, and I think that's gonna be a perfect spot for it. It's a little spicy, but he's not going to be doing no highway pulls with these Douglas whatever tires they are. And I told him to hit up Chris Sadowski and get that little roof brace thing, because Del Sols are notoriously kind of sketchy with a lot of power. So he'll figure it out. He said he's going to get a motor built up for this thing and come back, and I can't wait to see it back. So yeah, this thing's awesome. I can't believe this little eBay kit laid down $260. I also did want to mention too that the dyno weather station is not currently working, so it defaults to 70 degrees. That could be why this thing's showing a little bit more power on the dyno. I would assume this thing's like 240 horsepower or something like that, because it's like 5 degrees outside. It's probably 40 or 50 in the shop, but the dyno says it's 70 because the weather station's just a little malfunctioning currently. Just something else to think about, guys. Pretty awesome. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. God bless, and we'll see you later. I got a paramotor I'm rebuilding right now too, so maybe I'll make a video on that. Have a good one.